Hey everybody, welcome back. I wanted to do a kind of separate episode. This came up due to some recent things coming up that have been brought to light, mainly in response to and I won't link any of the content or anything, but I will just tell you to go seek it out for yourself because well, okay, so in the description, I will link the video that kind of prompted me to say something here. And that is, so it's from, if you follow anybody on YouTube in the, veteran sphere, if you're aware of it, Angry Cops, Rich High, who is a drill sergeant and detective with Buffalo Police Department in their Special Victims Unit. He has recently been making some noise about some issues in the Buffalo School District. This is Buffalo, New York, where he has been a law enforcement officer for a number of years. And he's made some headlines here and there in the news throughout the years. But he is, in my humble opinion, he is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful cop. I know in the libertarian community, police are kind of villainized a bit, but in cases like this, I really do think that police are extremely necessary and very helpful. And what I aim to kind of discuss today really affects me. So to give you the broad strokes of what Rich has uncovered, or not really uncovered, but revealed, he is making it known at the detriment of his own career and livelihood, and that's not something to be taken lightly because we are seeing, and I again, it was a special episode of the Unsubscribed podcast where he talked about this. He got emotional, which I don't blame him. As a father myself, I don't blame him. And what really concerned me is scrolling through the comments and seeing that this is not isolated to just Buffalo. This is a nationwide issue, and why I think this needs to have attention brought to it because we can't sit idly by anymore. And as a father, I feel it is my responsibility to protect my child. And I feel like we as a society are not doing enough. And I feel like a lot of people, especially those with the power to do something, like law enforcement and prosecutors, government officials, people that are supposed to put this protection at the forefront of their minds, are failing or being hampered or being handcuffed and not allowed to do the right thing. And I commend Rich, Angry Cops. I know he probably will never see this, but at any rate, if he ever does, thank you for doing what you do. Keep up the hard work because you have tons of us. As a fellow veteran myself, you have a ton of us standing behind you, supporting you, and we are supporting of your mission, your endeavor on this to expose this. So, what has he exposed? He has exposed that the Buffalo School District is essentially obstructing law enforcement. One of the stories he told was there's a school in the Buffalo School District that is attached to a museum, and there's an access point between the museum and the school that is unlocked and unguarded. So basically, anybody from the museum can just walk into this, and it's an elementary school. We're not talking like a high school here. And there was an attempted abduction of two children, one girl, one boy, and from what Rich detailed, the boy urinated on himself out of fear or what have you. But I mean, that right there as a parent, if that ever happened to my kid, I would be tearing down that school. I would be going after every single administrator going, what are you doing about this? This something needs to change. Why was I not informed? And the fact is they did not inform the parents. fully on this. They've been obstructing law enforcement. The attorneys for the Buffalo School District are informing administrators and teachers to not speak to police, not to assist with the investigations, and things of that nature. And this is not just this incident. This is multiple incidents throughout the school district concerning children. And this is something that is very, very, very personal to me. Having worked in law enforcement, having, being a father, having dealt with these sex assault cases before, I feel like this is something that we've got to protect our kids. We've got to do better. And this is why I wanted to make this special video, because I will tell you right now, it is not just isolated to Buffalo. I saw Kansas City, Indiana, other places are reporting similar things. So I wanted to draw attention to what's going on. At risk of exposing where I actually am, I'm going to post this to my personal Facebook. So I don't care if the cat's out of the bag who I am. The reason I keep kind of a anonymity in my some of my online dealings is because of cancel culture and because of my career aspirations and things of that nature. But at this point, I really don't care because it's something that needs to be talked about. So I live in Jefferson County, Colorado. We are seeing something of the same vein, but I would almost say very different and really, really bad. The Jefferson County School District is absolutely corrupt. It is absolutely... It has problems. And there's been some developments, I guess you could say, throughout the years. One such thing is there's an advocacy group in our county that has revealed some things that are really disturbing. And it's getting bad. Yeah, so I'm trying to find the story. So one of which so I'll start here and bring this up because I feel like it's kind of one of those things. Concerns rise over child safety in Jeffco schools after multiple sexual assault cases and misconduct. The advocacy group revealed it found 26 additional cases of sexual abuse, misconduct, grooming, hiring, firing, and reporting issues since 2022. That's a lot. So going through this is a brief story, but basically they went to a school board meeting, and one of the district chief of schools did, offed himself, we'll say that, over CP. He was found, I guess they did an investigation, and he was being charged with possession and whatnot of that stuff that I can't say because YouTube will blacklist this. So that happened, and then he sewer slided himself. So they found that they have done an investigation and found 26 additional cases of all this stuff involving our kids. And even if you're not in Colorado, I'm sure that there are other states that suffer this. But the schools are not doing enough. The schools are failing our kids. This is why I will never enroll my child in public school. And then things continue to get bad. Like this story here. Woman sentenced for SA on a special needs student and telling him to bring a gun to school. This is in Jefferson County. She's a para, and she was sentenced to 4 years in prison for SA and introducing him to fentanyl and trying to coerce him to shoot one of her coworkers. I think 4 years is laughably short sentence, especially for SA, especially a special needs student. And then I guess 10 years to life on sex offender intensive supervised probation, which, I mean, intensive supervised probation, I've dealt with that when I was in law enforcement. Yeah, okay, they're going to drug test her and alcohol test her or whatever and stuff. It's, probation can only go so far. But the victim was 16. This is evil. And so here's the fired Jefferson County Schools executive found dead in Maryland. He went to Maryland, and they were investigating him for possession of CP. He was fired back in December, and he was chief of schools. I don't understand how they could say, oh, no. And I got the email from, and I won't share the email, but I got the email from Jefferson County Schools. The school board president sent out an email to parents in the district and was saying, like, we're aware of this. He had no access to children, blah, blah, blah. All this, frankly, bullshit. Then there's the story here. This one, my wife told me about this, and it's awful. It's made, I mean, this is the New York Post, as you can see. It's made national headlines. Perv teacher groomed my daughter in class and then stole her away, and the school officials helped her. This story is insane. This is at Columbine High School, a school right down the road from where I grew up. This was a school that I played football against. Our school had multiple sporting events against Columbine High School. It is the famed Columbine High School that most people are aware of the very infamous school shooting a couple decades ago. But this story is gut-wrenching. Basically what to kind of sum up the story, and I'll put links in the description. Basically, this person alienated this girl from her parents. She worked under the guise to help this girl navigate her sexuality. And I mean, it was like years and years of grooming going on. And they allegedly saying that this student was transgender, or whatever. But like, basically what the story is, it's an endemic to the school system, especially here in Colorado, because Colorado is so left leaning, and we are in serious trouble here, where the agenda, the leftist agenda going on in this state, is causing instances like this to happen. So what happened was this teacher groomed this student, and eventually they got into a relationship, and they ran off to Oregon together, and they had this under this guise, this girl was homeless, and like the way that this is crazy. They exchanged, they're saying, they exchanged 24,000 text messages, spent dozens of hours on the phone, met in secret, and according to a note written by the teen, even kissed while the girl was underage. The sheriff's office is investigating this, thankfully, but I mean, She got the girl a job at Planet Fitness, let her use her truck. Um, like, just all of this. And then, yeah, the mother claims that this person pushed her daughter to submit a fraudulent application for federal homeless youth status, which would allow her to move out of the house and away from her parents. Essentially, basically kidnapping, because I mean this was a child, 15 years old, and that they were lovers or whatever. Which, again, here it was said 37-year-old. Yeah, 37-year-old. So a woman in her 30s is grooming a teenager, a mid-teenager, 15 years old. And this is just this is insane. Took this child away from her parents and kind of did things behind the parents' back. And this is part of the agenda. This is part of what they do. And it's very concerning. As a parent, I'd go scorched earth. Just the fact that this happened. Another one here. Another article on this same thing. How school district helped pave way for student to move in with female teacher grooming her. And it's essentially kind of the same. College school officials could face charges after falsely claiming teacher was homeless so she could live with her teacher. This is just one of the many things that Jeffco Kids First has found. 26 cases. I hate to say it, but your children are in danger. And if the parents don't step up and stand up to this stuff, who will? If police don't vigorously go after these people, and if DAs don't just, relentlessly prosecute these cases, it's going to continue to happen. The amount, I honestly think they're so. The Jefferson County, throughout the last few years, has closed down over a dozen schools. They're seeing, since COVID, because we all remember during COVID, they did this remote learning thing and had kids, kids couldn't go to class or weren't really encouraged to attend class. They had to do everything via Zoom. It showed just the level of kind of hands off, the level of inability for them to just kind of step back and say this isn't normal, this isn't healthy, especially for kids' mental health. And so and it's not a conducive learning environment. And so these this kind of was the start of the downward slide. And then when kids started actually returning to schools, they're seeing a drop in enrollment. Homeschooling is more popular now than I think ever in my lifetime. I remember growing up, people used to view homeschooled students, and I'm friends with a few people who were homeschooled as kids, and they're fine. They're well adjusted. They had a perfectly fine social life. But there was this kind of stigma around homeschooling where they said that kids who were homeschooled would turn out weird, or they were maladjusted to society, or they didn't learn the necessary subject matter that they should have learned in school. So that's where I think a lot of it started to slide. Was after COVID, people started saying, well, the schools are just doing a terrible job. We have sunk, and I could do an entire, monologue just on the failures of the Prussian school model that America has been using for the last 100 or so years. It's basically a little history lesson. That's where our model of schooling came from, was Prussia. They had this whole, one size fits all, and it wasn't even intended to be for education purposes. It was indoctrination. But I digress. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on that and stray off topic. But so Jefferson County has closed dozens of schools, over a dozen schools in the district, two of which are in very close proximity to where I live, due to lower enrollment. And that's a good thing because public schools are failing. We are dumping more money into public schools than in the history of this state. Colorado is spending more money on schools than ever before. When marijuana was legalized, it was legalized under the, I would say, under the guise that the money raised, the tax dollars raised, would go to fund schools. And they've seen that money go into the school districts, but the resulting, the end result is not what we were promised. They said, we would fund increase funding for schools, and schooling in Colorado would improve, and there would be more accountability and transparency, and that the students would, kids would excel. We would have the best schools in the country, and that's just not true. Colorado went from some of the top schooling in the country to we're in the bottom. Like, I think the bottom 10 is what recently they found out. And so I think people need to realize what's actually going on is it's a fraud. And it's leading to, so it's two-pronged. One is the fraud that schools are, we're putting more money into schools and therefore they're going to get better. That's not, throwing money at the problem is not going to fix the problem. We found that with a lot of things. I mean, just look at what's going on with the government and Doge. But we are throwing more money at schools now than ever before, and schools are not improving. Where is that money going? Well, I'll tell you, some of the most highly paid people in Colorado in the schooling industry are not teachers. In fact, I can bring up some stats just because I like to see where we stand. Colorado teacher salary compared to other states, I think, is kind of a... so World Population Review has one. Colorado, the average teacher pay for 2024 is $60,000. California, it's $95,000. I mean, obviously, because cost of living is ridiculous out there. New York, it's $92,000. Illinois, $73,000. For comparison to like similar state, Oklahoma's $55,000 a year. The highest paid teachers, the top 4 states, are California, New York, Massachusetts, and Washington. And so teachers are not making more money. But you know who are? Administrators and superintendents. And it's ridiculous. The average superintendent salary, I guess they show that the Colorado Department of Education has some of this information. But like, let's see here if it'll let me show it here. They have a spreadsheet for the superintendent pay here. So they're showing average salaries in the 2-300s. Let's see, where is Jefferson County? I feel like here, Colorado Springs, $275. Gilpin County, which is a much smaller county, is $151. Jefferson County is $300,000. That's what they advertise from the $300,000 for a superintendent. That's from the Colorado Department of Education. So, the median pay, they say, is around $150,000 a year. Most are making about between 120 and 190. But as you can see, Jefferson County, $300,000 a year. So clearly that money is not going to the schools. It's going to the administration, the the superintendent, etc. So that's the first problem, is the money is not going where it should be. There's not a whole lot of transparency. They're saying that, we had a vote because Colorado, for those that don't know, Colorado has this thing called the Taxpayers Bill of Rights, which is Tabor. The current legislature is trying to get rid of that. They're trying their damnedest, and it's mostly the Democrats that are trying to get rid of Tabor in Colorado so that they can pilfer our money, basically. The Tabor basically makes it so any taxation, tax increases, things like that have to be approved by the voter base during an election. And we saw this happen last year where the legislature passed a bill that would raise the excise tax on firearms and firearm-related accessories, and that had to go to the voters. And in November, the voters approved it, foolishly, in my opinion. Things like that. So the voters have to approve this. So the voters years ago approved a tax increase on marijuana. It was an excise tax increase on marijuana, that with the explicit intent of that money going to schools. But the literacy rate has fallen in Colorado. The math score rate has fallen in Colorado. Our schools are not performing. And then to add insult to injury is this, I don't like to use the word, but this woke agenda that is infecting our schools. They're grooming our children, and they are not making it a secret. The LGBTQ community as a whole, the activist wing, has said, we are coming for your children. I mean, they don't hide it. They come out and say it. They want to come after our children. They want to groom them. And then it should come as no surprise when things like, these teacher on student abuse cases occur, or the grooming. I won't share any names, but I'm friends with somebody who they had a dust up with Jefferson County schools years ago when their daughter got a haircut and colored it, and the teacher suggested that they might be trans or homosexual, and that has no place in schools. That kind of attitude, that kind of grooming has no place in schools. And honestly, I feel like, I'm not going to even mince words here. If you groom children, then I am very suspicious that you're potentially a pedophile. I don't care if you think it's for their mental health, or they may be suffering from gender disorder. That's none of your business as a teacher. Your job as a teacher is to protect them, keep them safe at school. You're a mandatory reporter, which a mandatory reporter who commits abuse, I find just incredibly ironic. But then, bottom line, your number one job is to educate. Educate these children, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And this is why the public school system is becoming so unpopular, and people are viewing it as toxic. When you have parents who voice concerns and they're labeled domestic terrorists, this is why people are pushing back, because this is ridiculous. This is ludicrous. What is happening in this country with our schooling system is insanity, and further feeds people with my kind of ideology, the libertarian perspective, that public schools should be abolished. The Department of Education and government schooling should be abolished, and everything should be privatized in the private sector. The school industry should be able to together set standards, and not some government testing standards that allocates funding based on how well your students do on standardized testing. I think that's ridiculous. So they have done that, and they've been pushing this woke ideology where kids are viewed as these malleable things, and that parents don't know any better. Parents shouldn't have a say in their children's lives. And honestly, I know I'm speaking for a lot of people here. We're sick of it. We are absolutely, completely, and totally sick of it. You need to stop. These teachers, administrators, politicians, all of these people, we've been saying it for years, and the voices are getting louder. Leave kids alone. I mean, I'm not going to go into the critique of the alphabet advocacy community, because that's another conversation for another time. But in terms of schooling, keep kids, just keep kids safe, and stop imparting your agenda on them. And we know it's happening. They're being groomed. The whole idea, I didn't want to get into this, but I feel like I have to. The whole idea that they're not sexualizing children is a complete lie. There are so many stories and instances and investigations about sexually explicit material in schools, that children, elementary age children, are being exposed to explicit content that is not age appropriate, and people are trying to gaslight everybody and saying, no, 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 that's not in schools. Sexually explicit content is not in schools. That's not there. And that's a lie. There have been parents that have gone to school board meetings reading books that they got off the shelf of the very school library. There are books that teach kids these explicit things, and they should be taken off the shelves. And I agree that, yes, if it's book banning, then so be it. So our kids are in trouble, and we as parents need to stand up, and that's why I'm here to say this. So that's all I'll say. Hopefully that the cooler heads will prevail, and parents and the good teachers, the good administrators, law enforcement, and district attorneys will step up and do something about this, because something needs to be done, and it needs to be done yesterday. Thanks, and good luck.